Okay, hey guys. So this is a presentation looking at Leonardo da Vinci, and in this short slides we are going to look at Leonardo da Vinci, just his background and a little bit of who he was. In other presentations we're going to talk about specific works. So let's get started then. Da Vinci was born in 1452 and passed away in 1519. He is considered to be a polymath, which is a collective word for somebody who has many great talents. And his interests and talents included invention of drawing, painting, sculpture, architecture, science, music, mathematics, engineering, literature, anatomy, geology, astronomy, botany, etc., etc. Many of you might know that Da Vinci was much more than just an artist, a painter. He was also an engineer, and he was leading in many different areas. He was trained in the studios of Andrea del Verrocchio. If you know a little bit about history of art, you will know that he is quite an important artist of the Renaissance and the late medieval parts. The earlier part of his working life was spent in Milan. He later on went to work in Rome, Bologna, and Venice, and his final years were spent in France. He was born actually he was an illegitimate child, meaning that his parents were not married. But however, in his youth, in the mid-1460s, Da Vinci moved to Florence, where he became an apprentice in the studio of Verrocchio, like I said before. In the workshop, Da Vinci was given the opportunity to mix with other artists such as Botticelli and Lorenzo di Credi. This is important to remember, just to know a little bit about what inspired him. In the studio, the artists worked together and shared both skills and thoughts. And in 1472, he was awarded as a master, meaning that he graduated from his apprenticeship. Even though he had no academic training, Da Vinci is viewed as a genius in many ways. One of his work here we have is the Baptism of Christ from 1476. Here we can see that Verrocchio and Leonardo most likely worked together. It is considered that Leonardo probably painted much of the background and landscape and perhaps the torso of Christ. However, some experts, they have been able to identify that there are some Da Vinci traits even in the faces here, or even in this profile here. Then we have two paintings called The Virgin on the Rocks. These are actually two separate paintings, although they are almost identical. Although the commission is well documented, there's no certain explanation to why there are two. They are exceptionally similar, except for a little bit of difference in light and a little bit of difference in background and in color, if we can see here on the drapery, and a little bit of the light coming through here. The coloring is different. We don't know if that is deliberate, if it's something to do with over time, and we do not know why there are two. Here we have Lady with an Ermine, a very famous work by Da Vinci because it holds a lot of symbolism. In another presentation we're going to talk about the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is famous not only for being a beautiful painting, but also because it holds a lot of mystery and symbolism. And it starts already here with the Lady with an Ermine. We know who she is. She's identified as Cecilia Gallerani. She was the mistress of one of Da Vinci's employer. Her story is full of intrigue. For example, that she was married off very young, and then she was married again, and there's a lot of love triangles and dramas going on around her. All of the, for example, the animal that she's holding here, the ermine, is a representation of purity, the whiteness of the fur. This was a popular pet among the aristocracy around this period. Her hair, her fashion, her jewelry is all very modern, but also very modest. And there is a lot of speculation going on about her modesty. Even though perhaps she was a mistress, she was still a lady. And then just to talk a little bit about simplicity in the ultimate sophistication, which is a quote from Da Vinci: "He is arguably the greatest draftsman in Western art. He was technically superb in whichever medium he used," which is, as we've seen in some artists and art periods, that usually an artist choose one particular medium or one particular subject matter that they specialize in and become famous for. But Da Vinci, he was really great throughout. He was driven by his scientific curiosity. He studied the world around him in absolute detail, making botanical and anatomical studies. In his drawings and paintings, he created figures which lived, breathed, moved, and gave expression to their emotion. Okay, for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more and listening to another voice that isn't mine, go on to this website and watch this video. And until the next time.